Oh, baby, fire me up after Chris Bassett shoves over what feels like 7 innings. And I actually apologize, everybody. Please let me know how the audio is, because I know I had audio hiccups with my video that dropped for you guys that you saw this morning. So let me know how the audio is, folks. But we have so much to get into. What an amazing walk-off victory as the boys take down, yes, the Toronto Blue Jays by a final score of 3-2. How's it going, everybody? It's your guy, Wardy, here, breaking down the latest in Mets land, as we always do. And there is one man that stepped up in this ball game more than most, and it was Jesse Mother effing Winker. I don't care that the season just started. I do not care that is April 5th. What an amazing victory for Jesse Winker that we're going to further highlight the brilliance that was him, along with all the good, all the bad that transpired in this matchup, everybody. Thank you all kindly for smashing a like and subscribe on as your first chime in. Spam those W's in the chat as we're about to break down this ball game. Innings 1 through 9, the entirety, what happened in it, what led to the masterful Jesse Winker breakout. Francisco Lindor just putting the bat on the ball against our NLDS friend and Jeff Hoffman. I'm glad that things haven't changed for Jeff, going from the Phillies to the Blue Jays. How we feeling, everybody? Spam those W's in the chat. Billy Dottie with the $2 holla. Thank you so much for that, folks. Let me see the W's in the chat right here, right now. And let's let it rip with the one, the only, the official WardyNYM post-game jingle. Let's go! Yeah, baby! How we doing, everybody? How are we feeling? I am so amped, guys. This is not a ball game I thought the Mets were going to win today. I got to be honest with you. Chris Bassett was absolutely shoving. The Mets couldn't hit a lick. My boy Mark Vientos is still laboring big time to begin the season. Jesse Winker facing left-handed relievers, not a problem. Oh my goodness, oh my god, oh my gracious, the boys are here to play, and folks, this is exactly why he brought Jesse Winker back. Not only did he want to be here, but he is a game changer, and I don't want to hear from any fair-weather fan out there saying, oh, Wardy, the Mets brought back Jesse Winker. That doesn't really do much for them. If you pay attention to the context of certain players with teams, then you know very well how much a guy can thrive with one team while not necessarily thriving elsewhere. Not that Winker hasn't had past success, because he obviously has, but in the role that the Mets have had him in, he is brilliant. He is perfect, and I absolutely love the man to death, because not only does he talk the talk, but our guy, he walks the walk. And it doesn't matter if you have a platoon set up where you're only supposed to face right-handed pitchers. Jesse Winker handles and eats up lefty relievers for breakfast, is what we saw here on this Saturday night. Come on, come on. We got a lot of people in the chat to shout out. PW, Pat W with the $2 hollow, which says, Winker and Springer fielding both went Mets' way. Yes, they did. We saw great, not only things looking good for Winker on the offensive end, and defensively, Mr. Springer sadly exited the game with injury. I don't wish that on anybody, but it certainly helped play into the Mets' hand, as that was that massive game-tying triple that we saw off the wall. Frank Sessa with the $2 house says, great for the Wink Man, great for the Wink Man. Indeed, baby. Thank you guys kindly as well for helping us get to our next short-term goal of 33,000 subscribers. We're less than 500 subscribers away, folks, and we're giving away a Mets jersey if you want Jesse Winker, if you want Juan Soto, if you want whatever player on the roster. We're giving we're giving a jersey away to one lucky subscriber once we hit 33,000 subscribers. So thank you guys in advance for that. We've already given away 2 Juan Soto jerseys and a Juan Soto shirt jersey, just to name a few, to begin the year. We got SR with a $5 holla in here saying Winker has 5 seconds from in the park home run. I know he was that close from an in the park home run. I really wanted to see it happen, but I'm not complaining. Jesse was an absolute dog. He did his thing, to say the least, in this matchup, everybody. And we saw the Braves did get shut out by the Marlins after, mind you, the Braves beat the Marlins for their first win of the year yesterday, 10-0. They lose at least 4-0 tonight. Not complaining about that. And you want to talk about shutouts, everybody. going back to the Mets victory yesterday, that was the first time that the Mets had a shutout win this year. And for context, the Mets did not record a shutout win at all last season until earliest their 92nd game of the season or so. So it took over half the season for the Mets to just shut out a team once, and they did that yesterday comfortably against Toronto. Nothing about this Blue Jays team has me thinking they're the better team. I don't care that they rolled into this series 5-2. Who cares? It's the beginning of the season. You got a top-heavy lineup with Anthony Santander, Vladimir Guerrero, and Bo Bichette. I love Andres Gimenez just as much as the next Mets fan, but let's face it, is he going to slug all year? I don't think so. Edwin Diaz carved up Buddy like no tomorrow. We saw a lot of swing and miss, and mind you, the Mets had no business being in this ball game. They were north of 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position. They were god-awful. They had so much going wrong in this game with Chris Bassett utilizing what feels like his 100-pitch mix on this team in Citi Field like he's never left, sadly. Where was that in the playoffs, Chris? Would have loved to see it, buddy. I digress. Let's break down this ball game. Let's get into it inning by inning. But the final thing I will say before we do that is twofold. One, shout out to our amazing sponsor at SeatGeek, folks. If you guys want to get in on the action and hit Mets games this season like your guy Wardy, and which I'll be attending both Tuesday and Wednesday's game this upcoming week at Citi Field against Miami. We're doing post-game shows live from Citi Field, baby. Hype me up. And that's all thanks to our awesome friends at SeatGeek as well. Check them out, folks, as you guys can get 10% off your next ticket purchase for Mets tickets, concert tickets, whatever you want to do in the ticketing space, and that is all linked down below. And secondly, let's get a roll call in the chat to see how we're doing, everybody. Let's see. Close that. Let's see. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Alex is saying, everybody, make sure you hit that like. I appreciate you, baby. I do. We got Eric Douglas, great member. We got Ryan, great member. Mr. Delightful, great member. Rebecca, great member. SR, great member. If you guys want to become a new member on the platform, we have over 150 active members. You guys get awesome Mets-related emojis that you can spam in the chat after big wins like this. I give you guys exclusive shout-outs. I shouldn't say exclusive because I shout out as many people as I can, but you guys get the upper hand in getting your comments responded as well as shout-outs, and we're doing at least one, if not multiple, member-only live shows each month throughout the course of the season, just like we did right before opening day. All membership details are in the description of the live show here, everybody. Steve, how you doing? Yo, Warrior, where's my $2 holla? Steve, I don't know where your $2 holla was, but let me go up in the chat for a second. Eric Douglas, how you doing, baby? Great member. Brewski with a $2 holla said, that team celebration made me feel pretty good. It made me feel really, really good, my man. SR with a $5. Thank you so much for that earlier. Frank, thank you kindly. I apologize as I may have missed the $2 holla from you, Steve. I think, honestly, pardon me. I think it just sadly didn't make the cut because of how many people are in the chat right now. So do me a favor. Let's see. Let me go on my chat right now. Steve, you just message me on the side and tell me what your donation comment was, and then I will gladly relay in the chat. Billy Dottie, thank you so much for the $20 holla. We appreciate that. Billy with a 20-piece says the following: what is crazy is the top of the lineup is not even at the peak of their powers yet. Like the 2024 Mets, they are grinding their way to win the start of the season. Stern so far is unreal with the all-around pitching. LFGM, you said it, baby. He has been absolutely tremendous. Guys, look at this Mets bullpen. If we exclude Jose Budo today, the Mets are now up to a total of 31 innings pitched by their bullpen, and they've allowed a total of just, yes, get ready for this, a whopping 5 earned runs. 31 innings, 5 earned runs. What do I see? Absolute Bulldogs, everybody. And guys, we're going to break down this game inning by inning just here in a second. We got a lot of comments to get into, obviously. Jay Jan with the $2 holla states, LGM 0-12 runners on, but happy for Lindor, as am I, my friend. Brian, thank you so much for becoming a new member on the platform. We're happy to have you in here for the largest Mets community on YouTube, not directly affiliated with the Mets themselves, folks. Wardy, when did you start playing for the Dodgers? How did we not know that you're a real baller? Adorable, what are you talking about, my friend? I appreciate you chiming in, no less. Thank you kindly for being here. I said imagine when this team actually starts hitting, says Steve, our great member. I know, once they get on a roll, it's only going to get better from here, folks. But listen, I know. I understand. And Bobby G, I know you're on and off. That's okay. I love you no matter what. I understand that there are a lot to get into in this ball game, but I have to jump ahead, and I have to start with the most important thing of all, in my opinion, because I cannot get over this man. AZ is going to be the final comment I address before I get into this, and it's this. My girl, my girl, my girl, talking about my girl, my girl. And I know I can't sing for shit. That's why I'm a YouTuber, okay? We're not coming out with an album anytime soon, I promise. Jesse Winker, you beautiful SOB. That's exactly what I said on X. Mets win, put it in the books, baby. Put it in the books indeed, folks. It's all thanks to the man himself and Mr. Jesse Winker. What a dog, guys. What an absolute dog this man is. Enrique, love you to death. Happy to have you in here. Let's see. You have such a variety of Mets hats. I wish I knew where you shot, where I got for them. I love all your hats. Oh, thank you so much. I get them from either online stores, at spring training facility, at Citi Field, or they're sent to me by followers of mine. Again, Master Debo, love you, my man. Pat W with the $2 Hall states, think Vientos needs a change in the batting order. I mean, he just got moved down the batting order, batting more 6th versus 4th and 5th to begin the year with Nemo, but we'll talk more about the batting order a little bit in the show. Let's first appreciate the greatness that was Jesse Winker today. Shout out to the stream for being a schmuck and deciding to freeze my Winker highlights, but you know what? The show goes on, baby. Why? Because I'm a dog, and I'm going to make sure I fix it right here, right now. Jesse Winker, let's break down the masterful game for him. Not only did we see Jesse rip not one, but multiple extra base hits, what feels like off the lefties, everybody. At least one, maybe it was just that triple, because the first two, I think, were both off of Bassett. We're going to actually check in the highlights with me right now to make sure that I'm not wrong. Yeah, the first two were off of Chris Bassett. First was a really looking good double. Then we saw a triple thanks to Rodin in right field going right through the wickets, buddy. He got nutmeg big time. And then Jesse just falls short of what could have been either an inside the park home run or if it carried just a smidge farther there on top of the Cadillac Club that we see in right field. That could have been a 3-run ding-dong. Either way, Jesse Winker came to play, and he said, I don't give a rat's ass about your platoon. I don't care if you're a righty, if you're lefty, if you're ambidextrous, or you're throwing the both at the same time, buddy. I'm going to go out, and I'm going to rake. Jesse Winker today with the 3 big hits. That is our key standout of the game. It goes without saying that's Wardy's star of the game, because Winker now has himself a 294 average and a just under 1,000 OPS on the season. That is what happens when you have such a big game like Jesse did for the Mets today, and it was great to see, especially with so many other guys in this offense not hitting a lick. It wasn't just guys like Mark Vientos that struggled in tonight's matchup. Pete Alonso, the polar bear, had 3 strikeouts. You know, a rare 3 strikeout night for Pete so far this season, all things considered, because he's been nails. Enrique with the $10 haul. Thank you so much for that, brother. I appreciate that. But not only does our guy Jesse Winker look majestic, but he's playing majestic. And he is absolutely validating all of everything that I've been advocating for the past year and a half, which has been to bring Jesse Winker on this Mets team. For the OGs here, if you guys have been following the Wardy content for over a year, then you know very, very well. And David, I don't actually have them set. That is YouTube's doing, so I apologize. But regardless, those ads do help out the platform a lot. So thank you so much for either skipping through or watching them. It does mean plenty here on the platform. But guys, Jesse Winker is a guy I've been advocating for going back to last year before the trade deadline. We came out actually with a top 5 Mets trade targets video, and I had Jesse Winker as one of the key bats in that video because of how much he just made sense for the Mets last year. The same way he makes endless sense for the Mets this year in this platoon DH time, as well as if you have to throw him in the corner outfield, maybe Nimmo gets a day off and gets put in DH instead, or something else along those lines. Winker wanted to be here. There was never a doubt that he wanted to be here. As soon as playoffs ended, everyone not named Harrison Bader wanted to return to the Mets, and I bet Bader did too, as a guy who's a New York native, but David Stearns was like, nah, I'm okay, and the Twins are enjoying his early success there in Minnesota. Ralph with the $5 holla states the following: the Fonz, Winker, Canning, solid outing. Let's see, Peko with a big boy dad energy. Soto will catch up soon enough. No haters, LFGM, you're out there, Wardy, jingle dance. Oh, we're always doing the jingle dance, Ralph. I hope you're dancing, you're getting all giddy at home with me, baby. That's what I love to see. Thank you kindly for that donation. Folks, I gotta hear it. How hyped up are you with Jesse Winker being an absolute dog for the Mets in tonight's game and this huge 3-2 victory? Because yes, Lindor poked one right away off of Jeff Hoffman to get the sac fly, but this was all Jesse Winker tonight. His hands were on everything in this one, and that is why, again, he is our key standout, guys. Let's get the hype going. Let's see in the chat how we feeling with Jesse Winker doing an amazing thing. Because as we get back into this one, everybody, let's break down this ball game any by any together. I will preface by saying that I usually take notes throughout the entire course of the game. Today, I didn't do that, so I'm actually referencing everything through MLB.com. So if I'm a little bit slower, that's why. I just want to make sure that I don't miss anything, even though I know it was such a slow roll. Bassett was shoving. Canning looked solid, even though he only won 4 innings. He was, again, the strike zone, he wasn't able to command as well as he did in his first start of the year in Houston. Something to make a note of for Canning. I didn't think he looked terrible today. Just clearly didn't have the command on his side and was getting behind batters quite a bit, which is why he only went 4 innings for us today. But I expect Canning to hopefully have a solid outing out there next time. And I'm not complaining if you're only allowing 1 earned run. My only complaint is that you didn't give us length today. But thankfully, when you have such a dog in Huascar Brosban, it makes everything all that much better. Because Brosban has now pitched 6+ scoreless innings for the Mets this season. He and Max Kranick, the guys that cracked this Mets bullpen at the very end of spring training, the day before the Mets official season began, and we find out Kranick and Brazo make it, and both of them have been the biggest innings eaters and the best relievers, you could rightfully argue, in this Mets bullpen to begin the season. And oh yeah, Danel Nunez is coming back soon as the 11th. And oh yeah, the Mets have a lot of guys ramping up back from injury right now, between Alvarez, between McNeil, and obviously to certain degrees, and Minaya there, and certainly Frankie Montas. You got to be happy if you're a Mets fan right now. It's a 5-3 start. Who's complaining about that? I'm not complaining about that. Guys, we're above 500 throughout the first week and a half of the season. We didn't get above 500 last year until what? When did we get above 500 last year as a team from how the year started? I don't think the Mets got above 500 until, what was it? Was it late in June? Well, when did we first get above 500? I really don't know. You guys can let me know in the chat, however. And let's break down this ball game. I apologize. I know I've said that a lot. Manuel with the $2 holla says, ugly win, but we take it. Absolutely. LGM, thank you so much for that. Late April, 13-10. Okay. All right. Kevin Kane with the $5 holla says, Jesse Winker was owning George Springer's terrible defense. I hope he feels better. Should we cushion right field? LG, $765 million, Soto out there. No, we're fine in right field. I'm not too worried. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing more Juan Soto in action in right field, because I'm going to be hanging out in the Cadillac Club for that Wednesday game for the series finale. So I will get an inside look, and I'll be recording for you guys right by Soto to see how he fares defensively there. But all right, enough rambling. Let's start from the top here. This game between the Mets and Chris Bassett, the former Met, and what we had on the mound, and Griffin Canning facing off against the Toronto Blue Jays. And in the first, we would see with 2 outs after Vladimir Guerrero Jr. strikes out, Anthony Santander gets on with a walk, Andres Gimenez with a single, and thankfully Alejandro Kirk gets caught looking by Canning, and that does it for the inning. Canning does a very good job on getting out of his own mess, and that kickstarts this one. As we see in the bottom of the first, another day and another huge double to kickstart the ball game that we see from Mr. Smile and Francisco Lindor. You can't say Lindor isn't hitting because he's making contact, he's barreling better, and this is a great step in the right direction for the guy who usually starts a season oh so slow each and every year. Prime, thank you so much for becoming a member on the platform, my friend. We're really happy to have you. Thank you so much for joining the Wardy community. Let's get some hype in the chat for all our new members here, right now. My replay viewers, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments after this 3-2 victory. We would see offensively after that Lindor double, Soto flied out, Alonso struck out because Bassett, of course, had his number. He had his number plenty in this game, and Mo grounded out, which leads us then to the second. And in the second, we would see with 2 outs again, first guy gets on base for Toronto after back-to-back strikeouts on George Springer and Will Wagner. For those that don't know, Will Wagner is in fact Billy's son, so shout out to Will. I'll be rooting for him plenty, just not against the Mets, obviously. And then we see Rodin get on with a walk, a 2-out walk, and that does it for the inning, thankfully, after a key mound visit there that we saw by the Mets. Bo Bichette would fly out. In the bottom of the second, Jesse Winker rips his first of 3 extra base hits on the day. This would be a double that we would see there, ripped right to George Springer. Then we would see Vientos strike out. Beatty's called out on strikes because of course he is, and Jose Siri pops up to end the inning. We then see in the top of the third, 1-2-3 inning for Griffin Canning. What's most impressive about this? He gets a key pop out in the infield on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He gets a big ground out there from Brett Beatty, from Anthony Santander to Brett Beatty, rather, to Alonso. And then Andres Gimenez strikes out swinging for a gorgeous 1-2-3 third. In the bottom of the third, Hayden Senger, who got the late start for the Mets because Luis Torrens was a last-minute scratch with a right arm contusion, but he actually came into the game later on as we needed a pinch hitter for Hayden Senger, that being a Sterling Marte. He did nothing with it, but then Torrens came in to catch for the final couple innings, and Torrens, of course, got a hit in his at-bat, even with his arm all messed up. It doesn't matter. Why? Because Luis Torrens is the best catcher in baseball right now. I'm only half joking as I say that. As we continue on here, everybody, the Mets go down in order in the bottom of the third. 1-2-3 with Sanger, Lindor, Soto, nothing to show. Bassett's in a groove, which leads us to the top of the fifth. And in the top of the fifth, we would see Mr. George Springer called out on strike, so there's 2 away for Will Wagner. And Will Wagner gets on with a walk. You see the trend. Griffin Canning's looking good, but he's allowing guys with 2 outs to get on base here. Then we see Miles Straw thankfully ground into a force out, and that did it for the top of the fourth. In the bottom of the fourth, with 2 outs, Jesse Winker rips his second extra base hit of the night, this time his first triple. It gets past Rodin, and it goes big time, and just like that, the Mets have themselves still a tied ball game, but you are encouraged by what you're getting from guys in Jesse Winker especially. Sadly, Vientos, a really brutal at-bat. He strikes out swinging, and we go on from there. Rodin kick-starts that we would see the top of the fifth with a single, and then we would see Bo Bichette get on with a single. So 2 on, no out already as we're in the fifth, which is not ideal, not what you want to see, and that is exactly why we saw after we would see them both get on. Griffin Canning is pulled from the ball game. Here comes Jose Butto. Jose Butto gives up a single right away on the ground ball to Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and just like that, Toronto has themselves an early 1-0 lead, but thankfully it wouldn't last too long after we would see Andres Gimenez get on with a 2-out walk, 1-out walk rather. Alejandro Kirk strikes out on a foul tip, and then George Springer grounds out in what was a huge bulldog end to the inning for Jose Butto to lessen the damage and just make it a 1-run ball game. In the bottom of the fifth, we saw Beatty, Siri, and Sanger all go down, and yes, the side was struck out. That's how good Chris Bassett was in the fifth inning. Struck out everybody and their mother. Then we see guys on the top of the sixth with 2 outs. Cue the same trend. Yet again, we see someone get on base. This time, Alan Rodin rips a double, his second of the year, this time off of Jose Butto to right. And afterwards, Bo Bichette rips a double himself, back-to-back extra base hits off of Mr. Jose Butto, who didn't look nearly as sharp there in his second inning versus the mess he absorbed right away, facing Vladdy and everyone else there in the inning prior. It makes it a 2-0 Toronto Blue Jays lead, and because of that, we go on to see Huascar Brosban come in the game. And what does Huascar Brosban do? He gets a line out from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to end the inning, and let that be that at 2-0 Blue Jays. In the bottom of the third, the Mets go down in order. Lindor, Soto, and Alonso, 1, 2, 3, and they're out of here, sadly, which then leads to what we see in the top of the seventh, where Huascar Brosban continues to be an absolute bulldog. Santander has himself a single. That's okay. Andres Gimenez with a line out, and then we see, thankfully, as it was overturned, Alejandro Kirk grounds into a key double play, and that would end the inning from there. In the bottom of seventh inning stretch time, baby. What do the Mets do? With 2 outs after Jesse Winker grounds out, Mark Vientos finally does something. Mark snaps the 0-for-17 skid with a single that we saw to left, and Brett Beatty, who comes in and he's facing Yimi Garcia, who just came in for Chris Bassett. Shout out to the Toronto Blue Jays for not trusting Chris Bassett to stay in longer than what he did. In case you guys are wondering, Chris Bassett exited today's game at 92 pitches there, when honestly he probably could have went 100. I know though that he's right around 40, so you don't want to push things too much with Seabass, but a perfect time to get him out of here because the Mets would jump on him. Brett Beatty rips the single that I mentioned, and Jose Siri gets on with a walk. The Mets have bases loaded. They're getting something cooking here with 2 outs that we see in the bottom of the seventh. They're getting a rally going, but sadly, Sterling Marte, who came off cold off the bench, has a soft ground out in the infield, and Yimi Garcia handles it himself there at first. We're still down 2 as we head to the top of the eighth. And in the top of the eighth, we would see a 1-2-3 inning for our Mr. Huascar Brosban, who gets a key strikeout on George Springer, a ground out on Will Wagner, and a flyout on Miles Straw. I'm obsessed with Brazo to start the year. This is exactly what we have been preaching. When the Mets first acquired Huascar Brosnan around the trade deadline last year, I told you guys he's going to be an absolute force. He didn't handle high leverage too well after being acquired by the Mets last year, but this season and a normal spring training and with the lab, he's looking more like Huascar, like what we signed up for. And I'm telling you guys, as I said it in spring training, I'll say it here too, Brosnan has all the makings of being one of the better relievers for the Mets throughout the course of the season, and is absolutely nothing short of amazing to see him blossom the way that we are right now before our very eyes, just a week and a half into the regular season. So I'm loving the start, to say the least. And in the bottom of the eighth, everybody, we would see Lindor get on with a walk as a southpaw Brennan Littell comes in, or Little. Then we see Juan Soto rip a single lefty-lefty wide because he's Juan mother effing Soto. Then with 2 outs after Alonso strikes out on what was a solid at-bat, 2-2, and then he strikes out, sadly, 3rd K of the day on the breaking ball that we saw. Brandon Nimmo lines out after what was, again, a solid at-bat, just a line out there to center after Miles Straw had to back up on it a little bit, and Jesse Winker, the hits god himself, does the thing. He rips his 2nd triple of the game. For context, Winker hadn't hit a triple since 2021, everybody. The last time Jesse Winker hit a triple was when he was torching the Mets, still as a member of, what was it, the Cincinnati Reds? Was he a Red in 2021, or was he a Mariner then? He might have been a Mariner. Either way, Jesse Winker, he's here. He's perfect. He rips a game-tying triple to to right. We see everybody, including Alonso and everyone else and their mother there on the bench, do the thing, baby, and that was absolutely tremendous. What we also saw, everybody, that was not broadcast, let's not forget this, is there was a fan streaking at Citi Field today. Not streaking where he was naked, but he was running all over the place, had his phone up, he was clearly recording himself, and now he's going to have to deal with being in the Mets cell at Citi Field until Monday, barring changes. So you hate to see it for him, but you love to see it. Maybe that's what maybe that's the spark this team needed, because he had to get something going, and Jesse Winker was feeling it all game long. Vientos, unfortunately, would strike out there afterwards, but the Mets had themselves a tie ball game, which sets up for yet another outing where Edwin Diaz is coming in, not in a save situation, but in a tied ball game. And this is what Edwin does. He strikes out Alan Rodin beautifully. He then gives up a single to Bo Bichette. He then gives up a single that we see to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Of course, you're sweating a little bit. Top of the ninth, tie ball game. You don't want to see Edwin get shelled here. And then what does he do? He strikes out Andres Gimenez like the beast that he is. Shout out to Edwin Sugar Diaz. We have him in the highlights that you guys can see beside me running. He was absolutely masterful, got out of his own mess. And when we look at Edwin in particular, what was working with the Arsenal, everybody, let's take a look at the velocity here. Edwin that we saw topped out roughly 99 and was sitting right around 97. And the slider, he topped out. Oh my God! He topped out 94 on the slider. Are you joking? This looks fake. Oh my goodness gracious. The slider per Baseball Savant, they have Edwin Diaz at 93.6 at the max. Did he really throw it roughly 94 miles per hour? That is absurd if he did that. And he sat right around 89 to 90 on it. That is disgusting. Either way, Edwin Diaz was nothing short of nasty, and he was a huge pivotal point to the Mets to get this victory in the end, as we then get set for the 9th inning. Because after Andres Gimenez strikes out, Brett Beatty grounds out, Jose Siri gets on with a walk. Then we see a wild pitch from Sandlin, allows Siri to get to second base. Imagine having a wild pitch when the one guy that can steal every bag imaginable is Jose Siri on the base pass. Not ideal. Luis Torrens comes in for his first at-bat of the day, and of course he rips a single to left. Luis Torrens cannot be stopped, which then leads us to runners on the corners. Here comes Jeff Hoffman, the former Philadelphia Philly reliever that the Mets torch that we saw in the playoffs in the NLDS. What do? First pitch, Slater to Lindor, rips one to right, and just like that, it's a sac fly. The Mets go on to win this one, and your final score is 3-2. How we feeling, everybody? He put some sauce on a Wardy. He did. That is just disgusting. I mean, it's one thing to be saucy in Edwin Diaz, where, you're getting to the upper echelons and the 100s and even the 101s on the fastball. Call me crazy when you're going 102. We know he can do it. He just doesn't do it very often. But a touch north of 94 on that slider is insane to me. I mean, that is Jacob deGrom-esque insane when we think of peak Jake in the 2021 season before he went down with injury, which was the case with felt like every year when Jake was really balling out. But the point here that I'm trying to make, folks, is that this was not a game the Mets deserved to win by any stretch. As we break it down further, like I said, they had a lot of bad looks in this game. The Mets were 2 for 13 with runners in scoring position. They left 8 on base. They had no business being a part of this thing. Chris Bassett went 6.2 shutty, gave up 4 hits, no walks, no earned runs, and 9 strikeouts, a .71 ERA to begin the year. So he's looking good. But here's the thing. When you have a Mets bullpen headlined by Huascar Brosman, eating 2.1 scroll sittings, allowing just 1 hit and striking out 1, without that, the Mets don't win this ball game. Without that, the Mets don't stand a chance because the Mets probably get rocked a bit more, and it's more than a 2-0 lead for Toronto. Pair that with the brilliance that was Jesse Winker in this ball game. Pair that with Carlos Mendoza saying, you know what? Let's not take Jesse out because he's facing a lefty. Jesse's hit lefties. He actually hit lefties pretty well in his limited sample size, and I know, take it with a grain of salt because it was spring training this past year, but I told you guys in our spring training coverage, I'm loving that Winker's staying in to face lefties, and I'm loving that he's making contact, and whether he's going opposite field for a double or ripping one down the line, down first base, he's consistently putting the ball in play. Jesse Winker is as advertised, but we can make the argument that maybe we're going to even get a better Jesse Winker than last year, and we're not going to limit him as much to only face right-handers. And if we have him in certain settings where you have that game, that feel, Carlos Mendoza had that feel today. And I want to give a massive shout out to Carlos Mendoza for trusting his guns, trusting his gut, and not immediately deferring to what the analytics tell you to do. Because I'm a heavy analytics proponent. It's important in today's game, no question. But you need to have a balance with the eye test, the feel, and the numbers. And we have seen Mendoza fail at that in the past throughout the course of the 162 last year, whether it was proper, not proper bullpen management, whether it was overworking guys, or most famously, in my opinion, not starting Jesse Winker enough in the NLCS. I know Buddy was healthy enough, still don't understand why he wasn't in there, but I digress. I can live and learn to forget as long as Jesse Winker is now getting quality at-bats, facing both right-handers and left-handers, and it appears that Carlos Mendoza not only learned his lesson from the NLCS, but is piggybacking off of more of what we saw to a degree from spring training. And that's good, because again, if Winker sucks against lefties, then you don't have him face lefties. That's perfectly fine, not an issue. But if he's gonna hit against lefties, then by all means, by God, keep Jesse in the ball game. Shout out once more to our guy. That was absolutely tremendous to see. We do have a weather update, by the way, everybody, because we know that game tomorrow is at 1:40, and this is what Mets Weather, the official Mets Weather X account, has to say. They're the best on really breaking down the weather for everybody that we see to know if we should attend the Mets game or not, and he states the following. For tomorrow, some rain in the morning, but the afternoon looks okay. Can't rule out a delay, but should be fine to play. We'll update again in the morning. So shout out to Mets Weather, which is capital W, lowercase x, and then capital M, lowercase rest for the word Mets. And shout out to him for the update. We appreciate that. Michael Saya with a $20 holla. Thank you, Michael. Michael says, I'm back, better late than never. Working 60 hours a week doesn't make it easy, but happy to be able to check in again. Well, Michael, thank you so much, my friend. I'm never asking for donos, especially for someone who's working as hard as you are, who probably grinding it out right now to make sure that you got the money. But seriously, thank you so much for sending that my way. As someone who's a full-time Mets content creator, a sports talking head, and a full-time dad, those things go such a longer way than they did in my first couple years as just your typical schmuck coming out here to talk about the Mets and rambling about it. There's a lot more behind it now, and I take this with a lot of pride and a lot of seriousness. So to anyone, whether you've donated a cent or whether you've donated hundreds of dollars, I know a lot of you guys have went out your way to send ridiculous donos I never asked for, but I always appreciate them. Michael, thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy week to donate and chime in. We appreciate you greatly. And I recognize you right away by your unique last name because I have not found another person here in YouTube that has the last name Saya, S-A-Y-A. If you have that last name, congratulations to you, but that's the first time learning about it to anyone else here in the chat. But guys, I want to answer some of the comments, questions that you have for me in this one. So please, if you have them, relay them now before we wrap up the live show, as we're going to wrap this one up in the next 10 minutes or so. I'm not going to be too long-winded tonight. Like I said, we do have that early day game tomorrow. I was in the stadium, says Brandon in the chat. Unreal atmosphere. LFGM, love this team. I love this team too, baby. Shout out to you, Brandon. Hope you had a tremendous time, and it certainly appears that you did, and I cannot wait to be at Citi Field. I'm getting giddy thinking about it. I really am. Like, it wasn't getting me too excited prior just because, and I'm being transparent, I have a lot of things going on in my personal life outside of doing this full time, and I'm absolutely grinding every single day where this is everything. When I'm not doing this, I'm full-time dad, or I'm working on content separate from this, whether it's for Bleacher Report that I'm a host Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whether it's with the New York Post on the side that we do segments more in the AM than anything else, or it's the content that I'm making on WardyMLB for MLB-wide coverage that we're doing here on YouTube as well for you guys to check it out, is linked on the platform and the description if I'm not mistaken. But I got to tell you guys, I haven't been able to really appreciate the idea of going to a Mets game yet, but now it's kicking in. Now it's really kicking in because I'm going Tuesday and Wednesday. I cannot wait. I'll be there with some awesome friends. I'll be there with my girl as well, and we're going to just be having a tremendous time heading the games, getting great experiences, documenting it all, as well as going live at Citi Field, more than likely, after both those games. Eric, thank you so much for the $5 holla. I appreciate you greatly, brother. Love you, my man. No, you're the man. Thank you so much, Eric. I know you've been a long-time follower here. Appreciate the $5 donation. Let's see, everybody. Can't wait for this team to really gel. Oh, 100%. They haven't even clicked yet fully. That's the best part. Juan Soto, guys, the Mets are 5-3, and let's be honest, Juan Soto really only heavily factored into one of those wins, maybe two. But really, there's only one that stands out and includes his home run hitting game, obviously, in that 3-1 victory against the Astros. Outside of that, Soto hasn't been a non-factor, but he hasn't been a guy where, like, oh, we're heavily relying on him to have success. We're going to have those stretches throughout the course of the season. But the fact that Soto isn't even, like, balling out at the Soto level yet is crazy to me. It's telling you that, okay, things are only going to get better from here, right? Juan Soto's going to absolutely rake. And hopefully it starts, if not Monday or tomorrow, then certainly by the time I get to those games. Let's see. Still believe in Mark, but clearly he's in his head 100%. 100%. And that's why I'm not going on these tangents of like, oh my goodness gracious, we have such a big Mark Vientos problem. Like, yes, I get it. He's clearly in his head. And yes, I will be the first to say that Vientos has bad fundies where he's coughing up errors almost on the nightly basis. And he's only going 0 for 4, you know, striking out at least 3 times consistently for 2 weeks. Plus, we have an issue. But I don't think we're there yet. I think Mark, again, is just in his head. I think it's exactly that. He's an unbelievably confident guy, and I really think he's just trying to get acclimated and adjusted to the expectations with him this season versus what they were a year ago, and ultimately trying to replicate and do better than what he did a year ago. You know, I think it's easy to get lost in the great success that Vientos had and just focus on a slow start because you're used to him performing well. But let's not forget how long it took Vientos to get here, 1, and 2, to actually solidify himself as being a stable, everyday player for this team. It took him not even cracking the team where Brett Beatty won that third base job to begin the year for the first 30, 40 games, and then Vientos gets the call, and he hits right away a pinch hit, absolute bomb to win it against the St. Louis Cardinals. Those are the differences, right? And we know that Vientos, when he gets in his groove, he's as lethal of a hitter as any in this Mets lineup. I trust Mark just as much as the next guy when everything is clicking. It just isn't clicking right now. And unfortunately, that's going to happen, right? We saw this with Lindor this time last year as well. That's exactly why I'm not going to sit here and cry about it the way that we're going to have some fans be overreactionary. And I will say, I'm not going to call anyone out. I understand, especially in the talking space as a Mets talking head, we're going to overreact to things, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. You guys have seen me and my fair share of overreactions. More for good than bad, but when the bad has been bad, it's been really bad. And that was like the entire 2023 season and what felt like the first 2 months of last year. It wasn't ideal to rant about the Mets every single night, but I also understand the context of these player performances, and that's why in Vientos, if we have another week and a half where he clearly is not hitting, then we will have a greater discussion, and I'll tell you more of what the Mets need to do. Maybe give him an off day at absolute most. Outside of that, he just needs to go out and play. The only way to get players out of these ruts, usually, from everything that I've learned across the game, by not only talking to former and current players, but also just understanding the game today, talking with people in front offices, the common consensus is usually they're going to play themselves out of it. The same way that they play themselves into hot streaks is the same way that they play themselves into cold streaks. They just have to go through this in the ebbs and flows of the 162. So hopefully, and God willing for Vientos' case, he starts to get on a roll as soon as the next series, if it's not going to be this one, with the finale tomorrow. Minimum 100 at-bats for Swaggy before concern. I think that's fair to a degree. Again, and the level of concern varies. Like, some people are like, he can't even be on the roster right now. I'm like, you can't do that to him after everything he did for this team in season and postseason last year. Like, what the hell are we talking about? It's just silly to me. Vientos he is a little unlucky, but here's the thing. Vientos had a lot of luck on his side last year. So if there's one critique that you could give towards Mark, it's that he had one of the best BABIPs in baseball last year, meaning that he had Lady Luck on his side. Whereas this season, we're going to see that further get exposed. How does he handle getting challenged more? How does he handle now pitchers having a year's worth of work to look at and evaluate him versus a lot of teams facing him for the first time last season and then finding out the hard way that, oh yeah, this kid rakes. And you didn't realize that until after you decided to work around someone like Alonso or Lindor to ultimately get to Vientos, and then he hits an absolute nuke off you. I can't wait to see Mark get back into his groove. He's not there yet, but once he gets there, we'll gladly have that discussion. McNeil come back, Beatty gone. That's what it's looking like right now. Once Jeff does return, Beatty needs to prove himself, but I do want to give a tip of the cap to Brett Beatty. I know it hasn't been easy for him to start this season. I know it's the continued hurdles with getting acclimated at the MLB level, but he did have a hit today. And I'll take that small win for what it is, because that one hit could lead into a hit tomorrow. And then before you know it, it could lead into a hit the following day after that. And then you have a little bit of a hitting streak going on. And then you could build on from there. No one looked good tonight except Bassett and Winker, 100%. No one looked good tonight against Bassett for the most part, except for Winker, 1,000% right. And the reason why Bassett fares well against the Mets is a couple things. One, he's got such a diverse arsenal. Chris Bassett throws the kitchen sink at you guys, like the literal kitchen sink. And when we take a look at Seabass, I'm actually going to just reference Canning for a second because we didn't do a deep dive on Canning. Through the slider 37% of the time tonight and sat 87. Four seam 34%, sat 93. Changeup 26%, sat 88. Sinker 2%. 93, and the curveball 1% at 81. Now, as we get on to Chris Bassett just for a second, because it can't be lost how good of a regular season pitcher Chris Bassett is. That's why I loved him when we got him a couple years ago from the A's. Bassett tonight threw just under 10 pitches, everybody. We have the sinker at 38% of the arsenal, sat 91. Cutter, he threw 20% of the time, sat 88. Curveball, 16% of the time, sat 71. Four seam, 9% of the time, sat 91. Sweeper, 8% of the time, sat 73. Splitty, 5% of the time, sat 85. Slider, 2% of the time, sat 83. And the changeup, 2% of the time, 84. So in order, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different pitches that Chris Bassett threw out of his freaking back pocket tonight at these Mets batters. That's what makes Bassett good, because even though each of his pitches aren't elite, some of his pitches profile below league average. That is in fact true. What is also true is that Bassett knows Citi Field really well. He had success when he was here, and he knew exactly how to approach these Mets batters. The 53% whiff rate on the sinker is the biggest standout to me when facing right-handed batters today. 53% of the Mets righties in this matchup were swinging and missing big time on that sinker. That's just crazy to me. But again, he was cooking, he was working, tip the cap. He deserves the credit. All the more reason to be happy that the Mets won this ball game. They got carved up by a starter for roughly 7 innings, and they still grind it out because they have that never say die mentality. They are the team that will go out there and grind out till the very last pitch, and I commend them greatly for that. One of the final things I'll say before I get out of here is, let's see, talking about Mauricio or Beatty. Mauricio's way too raw. I love Ronnie to death, but he has so much more work to do just to ramp up in the minor leagues this year before the Mets could even consider someone like him. So Mauricio is a great conversation that we will certainly have more on the platform, but we're going to have greater convos on him once he gets to Syracuse after still working his way up right now and St. Lucie with the Mets in their facilities. Once he gets to Syracuse and once he gets in a groove a bit, as well, we'll have more than Mauricio talk as to when he should get called up, where he will play. Doesn't make sense for him, all those kind of things. Because Mauricio falls in the Acuna category. Immense raw talent, can steal bags, can play various infield positions, but it's very raw. And you don't exactly know if you're going to be getting a great turnout or if you're going to have Ronnie Mauricio kind of look lackadaisical out there at times because he's still getting his footing wet, not only at the MLB level, but still just at the professional level Ronnie has more work to do. So we'll see what happens with Mauricio, but this is going to be a big year for him one way or the other, and I cannot wait to see what is going to transpire with him and if he cracks this Mets team or not. And PB9, thank you for the kind words too. I appreciate that. But folks, that is going to do it for our latest Mets postgame show. In conclusion, and as a recap, the Mets were out hit by the Blue Jays 10-8. The Mets had a better expected batting average per baseball savant of 252 to 229 in the Blue Jays, and they win this one 3-2 as your final. And we now head to the series finale where the Mets look for their first series sweep of the year, and what is going to be nothing short of another pitching duel, everybody. I know you don't love to hear that, but it's a reality. We're going to have Bowden Francis, who destroyed the Mets up until Francisco Lindor took him deep in Toronto and salvaged that game against the Blue Jays towards the end of last season, facing off against, in my opinion, our ace right now. When you look at the rotation, given injuries, that's David Pearson. So outside of Kodai Senga. But Pearson, I feel really confident about, and I love what Pearson has done over the past year and a half. I hope we see more of what we've seen for the most part since he arrived back from that hip surgery, going all the way back to June of 2023. But folks, that is going to do it again for our post-game coverage. Thank you all so much for watching. I love breaking it down with each and every one of you. Big victory, 3-2 is your final. Now let's see what is next in store for the team in Queens. Have a great one, folks.